everyone, this is Dawn. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to show you a layout combining a couple of different collections. I'm going to work with the Good Life and Cozy Up and then a couple of older stamp sets. So I've got some scraps from Cozy Up and I've also got some of the July-August mix-in papers. And then this is a piece of the Good Life pattern paper and some of the coordinating cardstocks. Okay, so the pictures I'm going to scrapbook are continuing my trip down to southern Colorado with my husband and some friends. And since I started out the pages of this scrapbook with Cozy Up, I'm going to kind of mix in and transition over to the Good Life, but still keep some of those colors from Cozy Up. So the pattern I'm going to follow is from the new Make It From Your Heart Volume 6. It's pattern number 15. And the pictures are of some of the wildlife that we saw down in Spanish Peaks region. Okay, so my base is going to be toffee, and then I'm going to use the light side of sage, and I'm going to mat my photos in the light side of desert rose. So I'm going to start out by cutting this larger piece of the Good Life. And that will, part of it will be on the left page, and then it will continue over to the right because they butt up against each other in the center. Okay, so I'm just following the dimensions on the pattern. A note is that there is a mistake in the dimensions given on the pattern in this book. The large sage piece should be 11.5 by 11.75. The pages that are, or the numbers that are printed are 11.75 square, but it's not square because it butts up against each other in the center and you need that border around all the edges. So make a note if you get this book, that page, there's just that little typo that needs to be fixed. Okay, so I'm just cutting down all of my pieces, and I'll kind of edit out and we'll get all these pieces trimmed out and laid out. And I'm just looking at the colors and seeing what I like. And this particular piece of paprika, it has words printed on it, so I need to make sure that I'm cutting it so the words are in the right direction. And then we'll add this piece of scarlet patterned paper. These are from Cozy Up. And then we'll bring in some mix-ins. So I thought I was going to use this honey butter, so I went ahead and trimmed it out just because I want to see what it looks like. Get that one down, and then we'll add another piece of mix-in, this toffee polka dot. Okay, and then I want to bring in a banner, but actually I'm going to use, it's going to be an arrow. It'll be dovetailed on one end and an arrow on the other, because these two stickers from the Good Life sticker sheet, one side is an arrow and the other is dovetailed. So I want them to be the same. And then I'm cutting my mats here for my picture. So I've got 4¼ inch square and then 3¼ by 4¼ for all of my pictures. And then I'll be popping those on foam tape as well. Okay, so that's my general layout. I'm kind of looking at things, and that yellow was just a little too much. It popped, it was a little too jarring. So I decided to get another piece of mix-in that is sage. And then I decided to flip that gingham piece. Instead of bringing another color in, we've got a lot of colors going on. Instead of bringing Harbor in, I decided to flip that piece, which has mocha on it, and I like that better. Okay, to distress and give a little more definition to this piece of rosemary cardstock, I am sponging some rosemary ink around the edges of 3 sides so that the entire outside edges of this will have sponging around it. And then I'm going to add some ink blending down in the lower left corner of this panel. So I'm just using an ink blending brush and blending some rosemary. So it's rosemary on the light side of rosemary. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the right panel. And my title and journaling is going to be on top of this. So I'm just blending an area of ink, just doing a nice light wash right in that general area, just to give it a little more definition and interest and kind of just dress it and age it as well. Okay, so I want to add a little bit of sparkle. So I'm going to bring in a rosemary shimmer brush and just splatter some of that shimmery goodness all around. So I like to squeeze a little bit out onto a block so that I have some color on the brush to work with, and just tap it out. You can use as much or as little. Okay, so I'm using an older stamp set called Wild and Free because it has this awesome elk image and it has a coordinating die. And this was actually, it showed up in the last chance sale last week. So hopefully if anyone was interested, you picked that up for a great price. And yeah, I love this set. I got it when it was originally available. And so I'm gonna ink him up in mocha and stamp him out on white daisy paper using my mini Misty. And then I'll do most of the coloring off camera, but I'll color the elk in with some of our new pencils from Colorista. And I'll speed this up super fast. We'll get going, and then I'll do the rest off camera, and I'll die cut as well. So I've got an elk, and then I'm going to color this mule deer in as well. I'm going to stamp and cut and color. And then this cute little goat from You're the Goat. So the mule deer is from Hunting Dads, and that stamp and thin cut set is still available. And then the stamp of the month was from last year, so that's retired. Okay, so let's start assembling. I've sped this up super fast because I'm basically just gluing, but I will keep everything in to assemble. And I'm just using the dimensions on the pattern to layer everything in and set it all up. So we'll go ahead and add that piece of mocha polka dot centered from top to bottom, and then we'll start adding these little strips. And again, I'm just using the measurements on my Versamat to kind of eyeball where to put all these pieces. So once you get your pictures laid out, this looks like it's a long strip of paper from the left to the right side, but they're actually short strips. So this picture, all these pictures are of the wildlife, except for the dogs, of course. They're kind of wild, but anyway. This particular picture, that goat was way up on that rock. So I took the far away picture, and then I zoomed in so you could see what you were looking at, and I'll put an arrow on that later on. That goat was way up there looking at everybody coming in. So I'm going to dovetail this end of that mocha pattern paper, and then we'll layer in that sticker. So I'm going to start by putting my pictures down using the dimensions, and we'll just work our way around and get our pictures added in. And then I'll know where to place that arrow. So we'll get that down, and then we'll add the sticker. And then we can add that picture on top of it. Okay, now we'll work on the right panel. So we'll go ahead and add that piece of mocha polka dot. And again, I'm using the dimensions on the Versamat. We'll just get that down with tape runner. And then we'll add these strips. It's a cool pattern to use leftover smaller bits of paper that you have. Okay, so now instead of dovetailing this piece, I'm going to create an arrow. So I'm kind of using the sticker. I'm going to sort of set it up just as sort of a guide to cut that arrow. It doesn't have to be perfect. Okay, and then we'll go ahead and start adding our pictures. Get that down. So the four of us were crammed into the backseat of the car. We had the two dogs, and then Jill and I were in the backseat. So we made it work. But I had to get a picture of the dogs. Okay, so I have another smaller piece of that mocha paper, and I'm going to use as a journal block. Okay, so now I have my goat and my mule deer and elk. And my title, I'm going to use some of these Woodgrain alphabet pieces. These were from the annual catalog from last year. And if they're still available, I'll put a link in the description below. And then I'm also using these Woodgrain arrows. And there are some other arrows available now in Woodgrain, so you could use those as well. So I'll go ahead and add those arrows so that you can see the goat that's way up on that rock. And then the little guy that I stamped out. Okay, so I'm going to use this mountain scene from the Scenic Route, and it's also an older stamp set. And I'm going to stamp that out in rosemary on toffee, and then off camera I'll fussy cut it. Okay, so we'll stamp that out. And that'll kind of be part of my journal block here. And then I've done some strip journaling on rosemary. So we'll add that journal block and the mountains. Sorry you can't see my gluing. It's kind of off camera here, but I'm just gluing. So I'll add the mountains, and that's the general layout there. So I'm going to bring in my T-square so I make sure those letters are straight. And we'll just start adding our journal strips. And get all of those down. Pretty simple. Just gluing things together here. We'll add the elk. And then we'll skip ahead in a second. I'll get all those letters down. And the mule deer. And then I need to add a little pop of sparkle. First, I'm going to get that arrow stuck down with the glue dot. So it's stuck to my picture there. And then, first I want to stamp out my travel buddies. And this is from another older set called the Wander Scrapbooking Stamp and Thin Cut set. So I'm going to stamp that out in rosemary on rosemary, and then we'll trim it out and just adhere that directly to my picture right there. And then add just a little extra sparkle. I'm going to bring in some of these dots from Cozy Up. And these are the toffee ones that have a little sparkle to them. So kind of gold / toffee. I'm just going to scatter a whole bunch of those around. So I will make a list of all the supplies that I used with links in the description below, and I will make notes on what are retired products. Hang on to those retired products. I've got tons in my stash, and I always go back to those stamp sets. And here's a closer look. And then I'll have some still shots in a second. So stay tuned. One more page for this trip. It was just a weekend trip, and I took lots of pictures. So one more page will be the closing page, and I'll have that video posted next week. So I appreciate you watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please hit that subscribe button, and then you'll be able to find all of my videos. I publish one scrapbooking layout video per week and one card making video per week. And thanks for watching.